This
Hello,
conference will now be recorded.
so today, we are going to cover a concept called gateway configuration, scheduled refresh in Power BI, and it is one of the very important topic as part of Power BI and the Power BI service also. So now to start the topic, let's start from a scratch. I am going to create one fresh Power BI report. I just selected blank report. I just selected blank report and I'm trying to load the data from a database called SQL Server. So in SQL Server, I want to connect with SQL Server. So here SSMS I opened. We need to provide the server name, database name, username, password to connect and load the data into Power BI. So because I am not aware of the server name, I am trying to open a SSMS. तलब देर किस रोचे पर? Okay, so now once I open my SSMS, here I can find my server name. This is the server name. So in Power BI, we need to provide the server name here. Then after database, you can provide here or at a later level also we can select it. So important direct query, you are going to learn about this one as part of data sources module that we not yet started. For now, just select import and click on OK. Or you can provide the database name also. Test DB I mentioned. Test DB. Click on OK. Click on OK. Now, what kind of credentials that you want to provide? Like we can take a Windows credentials, a database, or Microsoft. So for time being, I'm selecting a database credentials which we provided at the time of SQL Server installation yesterday. Like we are going to get a default account called SA. For that, I given a password, and now click on connect. So whenever I select a connect, it is going to establish a connection with the database, and it is going to showcase the list of tables or views or functions under the database we are going to see. If you not specify database there, you are going to see the list of databases also. You know that we have only one table which is created called books, which is containing a 1 2 3 as a data book IDs. Click on load. No, now we are loading the data which is there in our SQL Server database table to Power BI. Power BI. It got loaded. The data from database got loaded here. Now you can observe that I'm creating a visualization, book name and a book ID. You can observe that whatever the data that we have in a database, that is loaded here. That is loaded here. Okay. Now this is how we are going to load the data from a SQL server. Now I am going to save this file with the name called gateway demo, and I am saving it. So whatever the three records that we have at a database which is loaded in Power BI, and we are able to see that, and we are publishing that report in Power BI also. I'm opening app.powerbi.com. So from today onwards, next 2 days, we are going to see the remaining topics of Power BI service. But whatever the three classes that we covered, that is more than sufficient. But today's class is very important. Now I am going to deploy in one workspace called test DNA. Here I am going to browse my file, which is nothing but gateway demo. It got published. Okay, you can observe the report. Now let's assume if I enter some data here for this table, query insert into books, table name, the values 4 and the DAX. Let's assume we have a new data into the table. Select a star from books. Okay, we are able to see that fourth record. Now, in order to get this record into our Power BI service, here you have two options. One is refresh here, refresh here, which is going to get your data. Then after publish, it is good option. Like whenever you need to update your dashboard monthly once or yearly once. But let's assume that your data is continuously updating every hour. In that scenario, we cannot sit manually and refresh and upload it each and every time, right? So at that time, there is a concept called refresh or a scheduled refresh at a Power BI service. So here you are able to see that refresh now. Whenever you click on refresh, manually we are loading the data from our database to Power BI service, so that the data will be updated here in the report. The second one is scheduled refresh. You are going to periodically refresh this one, periodically like schedule it, so that every day at 5 p.m. it is going to load the data. Every day at 7 p.m. it is going to load the data. Like that, you can schedule it. You can schedule daily 8 times per day. You can schedule 8 times. So based on your requirement, you can schedule anytime at 8 times. Now let's try to refresh it. Whenever you are trying to refresh, like whenever you are trying to refresh, it made an attempt and it given some error. At a 10:28, it given some error saying that it has been disabled. Please try again later. Schedule refresh is disabled because at least one data source is missing credentials to start refresh again. So it is giving some error message. It is given. Okay. The reason is the reason is in a Power BI. So you already placed your data set in a cloud, and your data source is somewhere else on your laptop. On your laptop, how Power BI is going to know from your laptop only? We need to read the data. How it is going to know? Similarly, you may use other database, other machines also. In real time, when you are working, you may have a multiple remote desktops, multiple development environments may be there, along with your local laptop or a machine. And along with that, you may access your mails or your reports from your personal devices also. So, how Power BI can understand that from cloud, it is need to connect to your laptop and load the data. Our we are not aware of that. So it cannot connect to your mission. To connect to your mission from this report to here, we need to install and configure one software called Gateway. So you need to install and configure one software called Gateway. So now we need to do that one. So by default, refresh was not working fine. You need to take care of a gateway installation. So that you need to do on your mission where you have the access for a data source. So to do a gateway download and installation from here on the Power BI service, select the data gateway, and you can observe that the definition of gateway will be available here. Keep your dashboards and reports up to date by connecting to your on-premises data sources without the need to move the data or query large data sets and take advantages of existing investments. Get the flexibility you need to meet the individual needs. Everything it is saying. Okay. So now you have two types of gateway. They will ask you what are the different types of gateway that you have. One is personal, the second one is a standard. A personal gateway cannot be shared with other developers. A standard gateway can be shared with other developers. So we are always going to use standard gateway. Just select that and it is getting downloaded. So I'm just checking on my machine if I already have gateway installed. No, I don't have. Okay. So gateway is getting downloaded. The purpose of this gateway is only to link from your service account, whatever the service account that you have, and your development mission. For this purpose, we are installing a gateway. Okay, so it is downloaded. Now I'm trying to install this one. So I'm just double clicking on it, just double clicking on it, and click on accept, install, yes, yes. Addition. Clicking on yes. So installation was done. What do you mean by installation done is this part is completed. We just installed one software. Now, how we are going to link my mission with the Power BI service is we may have a multiple people working in that cloud. We may have a multiple Power BI service accounts will be there. How to link my mission, the gateway with the Power BI services? You need to provide an email ID here. Installation was successful. Email address to use this gateway. We need to provide a email ID. So I'm going here, copying that email ID, copying that email ID. Then I'm providing here. So I'm linking my mission with this email ID. Now click on sign in. It is going to ask my credentials. Now it is asking for a register a new gateway on this computer. Yes, it is the first time. Yes. Click on next, and it will ask us to give a name. This is the name that you are going to see your gateway information in a cloud. So here on the top, on the top, you have a settings. Manage gateways will be there. There, what are all the gateways that you have? That is going to show you here. Here I don't have any gateway access. So what I am going to give is dev machine gateway I'm mentioning. You can give some password for this one so that other people will not change this connection. Let me click on configure. So whenever I click on configure, so I am establishing a connection from my mission to my Power BI cloud. To Power BI cloud. It is done. The gateway, dev machine gateway is online and ready to be used. You just need to click on close. This gateway, whatever we configured, can be used for logic apps, Azure analysis services, Power Apps, Power Automate, Microsoft Fabric, and all these areas. It would be helpful. So now click on close. Come here and refresh this window. Refresh that window. Now observe that I have a gateway installed. The status is green. Check status. Online. You can observe that online. Now, what happened till here is we are done with this installation and this linking also, which means that from Power BI service, I can connect to my mission now. I can connect to my mission. It doesn't mean that I can access any in my mission. I can establish a connection. I can enter into a bank. That's it. Which doesn't mean I can take all the customers' money. Okay, so I can establish a connection here. Once we connected to that mission, we need to configure, we need to link a data source with that gateway. With that gateway, we need to link. For that, what we need to do is there is a concept called connections. You need to click on add new connection. Here it is a on-premises gateway that we are working on. You just need to specify for which gateway you are going to add a data source. SQLDB I am mentioning. Connection name is SQLDB. Here connection type. It is an SQL server connection. It is SQL server connection. We need to provide our server name here. Server name here. Database name here. Authentication type as like it is a basic authentication. The username is SA, password is 123, and you can click on create. It is going to verify the connection details whatever I provided that is correct or not. If everything is correct, then only it will create. Now, whatever I created that is available here under Dev Mission Gateway, which means that what happened here is so first one installation is done, then after linking was done to our service account. In that our service account, so this is the first one, this is the second one, third one in our database. Whatever the data source that we have, we linked this one to gateway, which is going to enable a connection from our account to that respective data source. This is done. Three things are done so far. Now, what is the final thing is from our gateway to our data set at a report, we need to link that one. We need to link that one. Okay. So now let's go to workspaces. Go to that report. This one, gateway demo. Now this is the data set. Click on this and click on settings. Now there is a concept called gateway and cloud connections. Gateway and cloud connections. For this server and database, we created one connection called SQLDB. Select that. Click on apply. Click on apply. So now what happened is whatever the source that we created with our gateway, we linked with that data set also. From our data set, now we are able to connect to our data source. Okay, we are good now, we are done now. So now what we just need to do is go to that gate like the data set and click on refresh now. Click on refresh now. It is getting refreshed. You can observe that it's getting refreshed. Okay, now it got refreshed at 11:45. It got refreshed. Okay, and there is no errors now. Now go to report. Go to report. You are able to see DAX is there, right? So this is how we are going to perform a manual refresh. And generally, we are not going to work on a manual refresh. We are going to configure a scheduled refresh. We are going to select a schedule refresh. That is also available under refresh here under settings. You just need to specify that time zone information. Like, let's assume that your customer is going to tell that in a US timings in the morning 7 a.m. So, like, we need to select the time zone. You need to select the time zone, and you need to select that time zone, and then after you need to configure a schedule refresh. How you want to do, daily or weekly? Weekly, what are all the days? Let's assume I want to do a weekly schedule refresh between Monday to Friday, and every day at 7 a.m. And whenever the refresh is failed, it will be get notified to that owner of the data set. If you want to send this notification to any other users, you need to provide an email ID. Okay, you can enter that name of the person to whom you wanted to send. Then after, click on apply. So that is when I select a weekly, and if I select a daily, it is going to tell like at what time daily you wanted to schedule. Whenever you made a daily, it will refresh every 7, like all the 7 days entire month. But whenever you select a weekly, you have an option to exclude a couple of days also. So you just need to specify the time, and you don't have an option to schedule at a 7:15. If I wanted to schedule at a 7 a.m., 7:30 is okay. But if I wanted to schedule at a 7:20, 8:10, 9:13, or 9:45, it is not possible. You have either 0 or 30. You can specify 8 times every day, 8 times you can configure. That is all about configuring a scheduled refresh. Okay, now to enable a scheduled refresh, what you can do is either you can click on this one, schedule refresh, or you can click here, go to settings, go to refresh. You can enable this one. First you need to specify the time zone, enable this one, mention at what time you want to do, and click on apply. That's it. That is all about a schedule refresh. In the interview, they are going to ask you what are the different types of refresh that you have. You have two types of refresh. One is on demand, which is nothing but manually whatever we triggered. The second one is scheduled, daily 8 times we can schedule. These are the two types of refresh. They will ask you what are the different types of gateway, standard or enterprise, standard or personal. So this is all about what is a gateway, what are the different types of gateway, how to download and install a gateway, how to configure a gateway with a service account, how to add a data source, how to enable a connection between a data set and a data source in a gateway, how to perform a manual or ad hoc refresh or a scheduled refresh. These are all the things related to gateway and scheduled refresh. Definitely, they are going to ask a question on this area. They are going to ask a question on this area. You just need to practice everything, whatever I mentioned here. You need to understand and you need to practice. There are one or two minor points when you require a gateway, when you require a scheduled refresh. I will cover later after covering of some classes. So, scheduled refresh is not required in all the scenarios. Our gateway is not required in all the scenarios. In which scenario it is not required, I am going to cover after 4 or 5 classes. In between, we need to cover something else. And one final point that I am going to cover before we close today is, in cloud, in a cloud, we are publishing our data set, we are publishing our report, we are publishing our dashboard, which means in a desktop we are publishing these two things, in a service we are creating this one. In everywhere you are going to see refresh, refresh. You are going to have everywhere, you are going to see that one refresh. The refresh which is defined at a data set is very important. Here we are going to connect with the data source and load the data. For this one we require a gateway, for this one we require a schedule refresh and everything. But the refresh that you have at a report or a dashboard, you don't have any other option. What it is going to do is, whenever you did this one, it is going to get the data from here. By any chance, if the data is not reflecting at a report, means whenever you do a refresh, it is going to get the data from data set to here. Similarly, at a dashboard level, whenever you click on refresh, it is going to get the data from data set. It is not going to get the data from data source, which means that if you go to your report, if you go to your report, in the report on the top you have an option called refresh. It will update all visuals in the latest data. So whenever you click on that, it is going to load the data from your data set. It is not going to get the data from your original data source. Okay. Similarly, at a dashboard level also, you have an option called refresh in the top. This is also going to the same. It is clearly mentioning when the data model has been updated. It has been updated. Once it is updated, it is going to get the data from the latest data. Okay. So just remember these points. This refresh is not the refresh that we discussed in the entire class. This is to load the data from dataset only. So I'm stopping till here, and with this, all the Power BI service important topics are done. But still, there is a 1 or 1.5 hour discussion is there. Slowly, we'll cover that one tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and the remaining visuals also will cover this year. Like we'll try to close the visual part, Power BI service part, and remaining things we'll see later. That's all from my end. Do you have any questions? If you have a question, unmute and proceed. Okay. Thank you all. Have a good day. Bye now.